And hello, it's me. I return after quite a while. Yes, I'll tell you more eventually. And I know that people can um, will see this at other times because it will be available in the live section of my YouTube channel. And I'll add more details, perhaps, and links or anything else I need to if I remember later on. So it has been a while. I don't know how many months, but things have improved since the last talk. I seem to have more energy these days, not every day. Some days I'm absolutely shattered, especially if I had a fairly busy day the day before. Yesterday I had a very quiet day and I slept a lot of the day because I was just so shattered from two busy days before, two days with social activities in, which were lovely, but God, they drain me. They really do. And I need to look after myself in between. So I don't know how long I'll be able to keep this going. Today, I can't do much more because I really need a shower. And I've got to be somewhere online by 6 p.m. And I would like to do an errand before then, but I don't think I'm going to get that done today. Tomorrow will be fine. So let me start with what you can see in front of you. And I hope that my voice is nice and clear for you, that there's no problems with that. What I've got here is a little pile of papers I've just coloured, just before I decided, right, I've got enough energy to do a quick video. And these are, I know they're Nina cardstock, and from the feel of it, I think it's the Bristol Vellum, but I could be wrong. So they're not paper designed for watercolor or anything else. They're sort of meant for writing or typewriting or printing on and so on. But I quite like the textures. And what I've done is I've colored them with distress inks, and I've also added, let me just put the light on here, so at least I might not make quite so many shadows. Um, I've used stencils to put some background patterns on, which are not going to influence, hopefully, what I draw, but you never know. Some some color combinations I'm happy with, others I really am not. And this is one I'm not. I don't know why, what on earth possessed me to put vintage photo on there. That is only a background, and colours can be changed later on or added to if necessary. This one's quite nice. It's Rusty Hinge with, I'm not sure what this is. It's some kind of soft pink colour. Can't remember what it is because I haven't used distress inks for so long now. But it'll come to me maybe. But it's, oh, abandoned coral. And I quite like that combination. This brown is the right brown. This one's just a bit too bit mucky looking. This one was wild honey and spiced marmalade. I quite like that, the monochrome. It just gives that those differences behind, which can make an interesting background. And when things are done correctly, then we can have um, it, the design can float above the background if I want. This is quite sweet. It's seedless preserves and oh gosh, the purple one. I can't remember its name now. But this is, oh yes, it's wild honey, which gives an interesting sort of browny, greeny colour, I suppose, but just subtle. This reminds me of lavender, and I don't know, it wasn't with any intent, but you've got the lovely purple little leavish shapes on there, and lovely green behind that soft, spring green. Um, Seedless preserves, I know it wasn't. It was a purpley colour. Oh, something Concord. Yeah. And these were peeled paint and some whatever colour I used on there. Can't remember. I did it more than 5 minutes ago, so there's no hope. This one's blues and greens. Quite like these organic sort of like ripples. They appeared on another one. Pretty little leaves, whichever way you like, a bit like wallpaper. So a green, I think that's cracked pistachio, I could be wrong. And Uncharted Mariner. Uncharted Mariner, um, blueprint sketch, and I think that was Uncharted Mariner as well. I could be wrong. Oh, there's a purpley colour there, which it's a purpley blue. So which one shall I choose? I don't know. Perhaps I'll just pick one at random without knowing what they are. Just pick one out. Oh dear. I think we're going for one of these. That one there. One underneath. Oh, there we go. Sunshiny yellow. It's a sunshiny day here in the lovely valleys of South Wales. And so which way? I'm going to go this way. And as I like to do, I've got a drawing pencil. It happens to be a black winged Iris pencil. I like black wing pencils, I've come to discover. Yes, they are a bit on the pricier side, but they are well worth it. And they also smudge quite nicely because they are the lead in them is quite soft yet hard. It's a funny thing. Like it says here, half the pressure, twice the speed. And they're not soft in that they will smudge easily with touch, but they are when you want them to smudge, say with a tortillon or a stump or something. So I've got my frame because I do like to work in a frame, and I have two fine liner pens. I have a Micron 03 and I have a Unipin 01. But I have got other pens. I've always got tons of pens lurking around, and I've got some sets of coloured pencils. I've got some zest which I can use to um, add colour and blend it out nicely if I choose to do that. Let's start with the 03 pen. And I have no idea at all what I want to draw. So I'm going to pick somewhere, and I think I'm going to choose here. And I'm just going to draw a kind of egg shape because I can. And it's a good enough place to start. And I've gone back, oops, to my old camera because my new cameras are pains in the backside, all of them. This one does what I want it to do, which none of them seem to do anymore. But I think the video seems to be of a good enough quality, which is fine. And hopefully my voice is of a good enough quality as well. I've got my Who Are We free clips in, so I'm using my earphones. Oops, oops. Oh, I think I've got them. And I tapped them and I made tapping noises at me because I've forgotten what happens with all the taps you do. Um, so that's quite a nice shape, but I think I'd like something a bit more interesting there. So I'm just going to put a smaller version in and then a smaller one again, just like that. Now I'd like this to appear like it's a window to the inside or a hole through which something can escape. Oh, that sounds dramatic and eerie, doesn't it? But I don't mean it to. So I'm just going to go around and just thicken these lines a bit. So that starts to add some dimensionality to this. And I will add some more dimension in a different way, but I'm also going to go to these lines just to add, again, some dimension there. At the top, I think I'm going to put some semicircles like that. So it looks like it's got a little hat on, I suppose, and a very little hat. It's not a big, tall party hat, but it's got a little hat from which I can have perhaps some little bubbles going. Perhaps I may just have them wafting down a bit towards that, but not touching it. That looks quite cute. Never would have thought of that. Well, planned it. It's just what happens. You just follow your instincts, and that's all I can say about art is just follow your instincts. Don't overthink, just do. And even if you get to a point in the art where you think, why on earth did I do that? You're drawing, persevere, don't give up. Because there's always that place where I think, oh, what on earth did I do that for? And I'm beginning to think that about the darkness around these petals now, just to help them stand out a little bit. I'm thinking, what on earth did I do that for? But all will be fine and well. And I think to help give this some extra feeling of volume, shape, I'm going to put some curved stripes behind this hole, but I'm going to have them as if the egg bulges out where this thing is. And again, I'm going to add some line weight just to make it feel that there's volume and dimensionality there. And just to help with that, I'm just going to have these poking out a little bit from the edge. Yeah, it's going to be dark, but it's very subtle, but it does give us that feeling of dimensionality. Now, if this is going to be a plant, I could have it just floating in midair, have a pile of them on the page, but I quite fancy giving it a nice stem. So again, I'm going to start with these semicircular shapes that are getting smaller and smaller as we go down. I don't want them to vanish to nothing. And then I use Zentangle patterns and Zentangle kinds of ideas, but I'm not averse to using pencils for structure because that's what I would do if I was sketching a design out before I ink it in, as I've done with colouring books in the past. And then you can make adjustments. It gives you that guideline. You can see your overall composition, and it's easy then to adapt. I know that's not in the Zentangle method, and I'm not a CZT or anything, but this is me, the way I do art, and I'm quite happy with how I do it. Yeah, I am really quite happy with how I create art these days. And I may show at the end of the video, as we're coming towards the end, some of the stuff I've been doing more recently. Because I have been continuing doing art, but gosh, it takes me so long because I've been not been able to focus for a very long time. And so I've had to do it in little bits when I'm able to. And I get sidetracked. I've been getting sidetracked so easily by other things as well, which is not like me at all, but it's all good. It's all beginning to wash itself out, I think. Now with the stem, I wanted the guidelines because I wanted to separate my stem into little sections, as you can see. And I want those little bobbly bits in the middle, or ribby bits, or textured sections, just to add some interest to what would otherwise be quite an interesting shape on the page. And it's nice and straight. So next thing, I do want to add some leaves. So I'm going to take them from the bobbly bits, and I'm going to use the center one as a guide to bring the central leaf. And I'm not going to have them in any particular size. However they end up is how they're going to end up. I'm not thinking about how leaves normally get bigger the further you go down a stem towards the roots. I just want some interesting leaves here. So I'm putting that central vein in, and I'm going to do it on the other side. Well, these could be leaves themselves, and I'm thinking about this as I'm doing it. I'm thinking, oh, I wonder what would happen if I use the other sections to overlap or go over and under to weave some more of these pointy leaf shapes. That would be interesting. And that makes a nice contrast to the roundness and smoothness at the top. So let's have a look how that might work. What's the worst that would happen? I'll go, well, I've tried it and I don't like it much. Or it could just be that I end up liking it a lot. You never know until you try, do you? Of course, if I'd wanted to, if I'd thought about this before, as I'm doing this, I'm thinking, oh, it'd be quite nice if I'd added a few more, like 5 little knobbly bits here to get some real weaving going on. But I'm not. So, and I didn't think of it because I didn't know what I was going to do. This will end up in, hopefully, somewhere safe in a stash of things, stash of ideas in a sketchbook somewhere. So I've got something to refer back to. So I'm going to do this side first, where I just am weaving behind again, just to help to, it doesn't have to go all the way underneath all three, because in nature, nothing would be exactly the same, would it? Though it'd be fun to make it so and give it a kind of mechanical feel. That's not my way. And who says they all have to be the same shape? We'll have a cheeky one there that's just decided to go, oh, I think I might want to scratch my ear somewhere because that's fun. Oh, hello. Well, thank you ever so much, grain de sand. I hope I said that right, grain of sand. I appreciate that. I think I've got the meaning. I'm not French, but I don't speak French, learning Welsh. Um, right, I appreciate the comments very much. Thank you. And it's lovely to see you here. Okay. Um, when the video's finished or whatever, I will go and look at the comments. Or if you put a comment in the comments once it's finished, then I will reply. I'll get Google to translate for me. So merci beaucoup. Okay, so now here I started with the top one going under first. So on this side, I'm going to do a bit of a, I'm going to do a swapsy. Not that it will make any difference at all. Because unless somebody really pays close attention, they won't have an idea, will they, what's going on, whether something's changed or not. And of course, it doesn't really matter if I keep them going the same way or not. Now, the nice thing about this is I'm trying different things out as I do this. I've got a lot more of leaves that have got the little bendy bits in them now. This one's just hiding a little bit behind that leaf. So I'll go this way because it's easier to draw upside down with this. I know what kind of shape I want to put here. That's okay. And then so I'm using this as a, an exploration of this idea of how I could create these little leaves and create something that's a bit different. Oops. Now that one was a bit different because I should have gone underneath, but does it matter? Not really. It's a, it's a wayward leaf, you know. Perhaps it connects to the other side instead of just this side. You just don't know with these pesky plants, which come from other realms. So there's my plant. Now looking at this, there's a couple of things I want to do. One is I do want to put some texture on the bottom part of this. So I'm going to put in things that will hopefully look like little bumps. And I am leaving a little gap at the top. So I'm not drawing complete circles and I'm putting some weight at the bottom just to add something to it. That makes sense. Again, where it goes it's around the outside, I'm just adding the darkness there, which is why having the open bit at the top is useful. And so, and that's just added some texture. And perhaps we could just put some little ones here as well, just to tie the two together as if there's a different band or pattern there in the middle. I don't know what it's going to be. I really don't know, but time will show. And then in the center here, we definitely need some seeds. And so I'm going to start by filling this with circles and semicircles, however they fit in, like so, and black between them if they don't quite meet. And then in the center, I'm going to put a black bead that has like a white dot in it. So it looks like it's something that's spherical. These leaves need some shading or some thicker lines, and I'm going to go with the idea of left and bottom to be consistent with a light source. So not all the way around, just the left and the bottom, and bearing in mind where they overlap to be consistent as well with that. It's amazing how the leaves started off as quite straight, almost straight and quite sharp in nature, but the new ones have got a bit more um, perkiness about them, I suppose, or a bit more, less rigid and less regimented, more organic and party-like, I suppose. We've got somebody keeping them in their place, but they're just not obeying the rules really, and I'm fine with that. It always amazes me how just this extra bit of ink can really lift a design before we do anything else, how it can just help to add that sense of volume, of um, dimension, so that things don't appear quite so flat. So if you did this to both sides of the leaves, then they would just look flat, but that's not what we want. So it is just the bottom and the left is what I'm focusing on. I've had to put some there because I made a bit of a mess. That's okay. Occasionally, you go with the flow. Something happens, and you just go, okay, then I'll work with that. We'll disguise it in this way. Nobody will know unless they're really looking very hard for imperfections. And even then, because it's made by human, the imperfections are necessary. I'm just going to swap to my finer O1 pen because I do want to do something here that will add some interest here. I'm just going to add some little stamens. So just line with a dot, a black dot on the end. So we've got that going on. And then we've got this section here. And I do want to fill this in with a pattern, but I'm going to keep it quite simple. I'm going to make use of the curvature of this seed head, flower head, whatever we want to call it, and mimic or echo the curve around that central hole, but also the edge. And it just helps to fill in some volume and some interest. Oh, thank you, Carol. That's very nice of you to say. It's really lovely. Thank you. It's lovely to have you here. And I'm enjoying myself drawing. So it's really nice. I've got a fan on to keep me cool because it's quite warm upstairs still. It's not that hot in the UK. It's only 22 degrees Celsius. I'm not sure what that is in Fahrenheit, but I will ask Google. Hey Google, what is 22 degrees Celsius in Fahrenheit? Thanks, Google. Hello, Andrew from Sydney. 22 degrees Celsius here, 73 Fahrenheit, more or less. It's not the hottest, but it's too warm for me. Um, this medication I'm on that makes me overly warm. I have to be very careful in hot weather that I don't dehydrate and collapse. So it's nice when there's a breeze outside, but it's not blowing the right way for it to come in through my windows. But a quiet fan does the trick. So I've got this far, and I think I want to add something to these, just a bit more of the darkness on the inside of the stem, just to help that stand out that little bit more. And on the bottom of these little I don't know what you call them, joints, I suppose, or nodules where these weird leaves grow from. And that's all quite nice. But I'm happy with that. I don't want to add anything more. Like all this space around it. Sorry, I will zoom out again. We've got all this space around it, and I want to do something with that space. Now, an artist I really love their work is Rebecca Blair, and you can find her on Instagram as I think it's Blair Illustration or Blair. I think it's Blair Illustration, not Blair Art. But just put in Rebecca Blair. Her work's amazing. Good gosh, 9 degrees Celsius would be perfect, Andrew. Hello, Carol from Colorado. Lovely to have you here. Um, it's anyway, Rebecca Blair. I love what she does. And uses quite geometric patterns that are very organized and laid out, quite strictly with rulers and compasses and so on. Then she also has used in the past sort of like raggedy lines, and she uses collage papers and things like that. And her patterns are sort of precise, and yet there's an imperfection she adds to everything, a deliberate imperfection. I love what she does. And I love the idea of collage. So that's what I'm going to do along one edge, and I'll decide what I do along the other in a moment. But oh, what size? Don't want the O1, I want the O3 pen. Ugh. So I'm going to just draw along the edge here. I'm not worried if this isn't exactly perfect, because I want to mimic the idea of some collage. And then I'm going to draw a line here that is deliberately perhaps imperfect. And perhaps I could have another one that goes like that. So it looks like I've got overlapped papers. I've only got two there. Can I could actually just put some in there. And I may add more as, behind. So I've got a little bit of space here, so I could just put a little bit of a one here just to add some space there. I'm just going to close the bottoms of these off because I most probably will end up drawing a frame in. And then that gives me space to do some patterns in. But before I do that, I am going to go and add thicker lines to the bottom and left of these where I can, just so there seems to be a kind of shadowing going on. So this is my first strip of paper here. So I'm looking at where these are the bottom and left of the paper. And it's not easy to do. Perhaps it would have been easier if I hadn't drawn all of these in one go. But just be consistent and you work out. So here, this, I'm going to add shadow there, but not too much along here. But again, when I go around here, around there. And this one, that's going to be quite a bit of shadow. And in fact, I've just realised I've done this wrong. I've been putting the shadows in the wrong place, but I'm not worried. It is what it is today. And it's just about dividing these up in some way. And I will do that with some more work as well, pencil work. And I think here I can definitely add some darker bits, a bit like you would with Diva Dance, I suppose, but I'm not going to do Diva Dance as a pattern on these, I don't think. Well, it's always possible because it happens to be one of my go-to tangle patterns in many forms. So I've got this going on here. In fact, I think I may just, I quite like these lines that are a bit thicker and a bit, where the thickness of the line varies, where you've got these little bulges on one side, both sides, however it works out. And just connecting everything with little bits of inky glue. And I should have zoomed in. Sorry about that, but I will zoom in as I do the next thing. So there we go. So you might be able to see all the little blobs of ink I've put in and just to make these lines a little bit more imperfect. And when you do things like this, you don't have to worry about if your lines are wobbly or not imperfect. It's about embracing them, embracing what they are. And doing it deliberately gives you that feeling of ownership as well, I think, that I've done this. This is how I like it. This is how I want to do it. And this is the case for me. So how would these be layered? This would be the top layer. So there's top, middle, next middle, bottom. There's not bottom and then second bottom. Now, this could join on there, or this could as well. I think what I'm going to do with the bottom one is I really do want to have quite a dense pattern in it, suggest that it's dark. So if I zoom in again, because I have the power to do this, I am using my O2 pen. I'm drawing straight lines, stopping just a little distance away from this black line, and then adding a little ball on the top. So I'm taking that texture pattern I used inside these petals or whatever they may be at the top of the seed pod, and adding it to make it to use it again. It helps to bring some coherence to the design. So that's what I'm likely to do with others. Now, I'm having trouble if I work upwards in getting the spacing good enough for me. So I'm going to work downwards, and that's fine. For whatever reason, I prefer to add things this way, and that'll work. And that is quite dark and dense. And you know what? I'm going to decide to make this one quite dark and dense as well. Except I've decided that I apparently wanted to leave a bigger space there. So I'll just make my little balls a little bit longer, deliberately so, and then return them back to their normal size. Again, unless you point it out to people, they're unlikely to notice, or they'll assume that, well, that's exactly what you wanted it to be. Especially if I make some of these slightly longer, it all fits together. But at a glance from a distance, if I zoom out, you will see that you don't really notice that difference at all. So I just don't get hooked up on such things. So this is the next one. And what I'm going to do here is I am going to edge this with a line as if this is paper that's been torn and has left a raggedy edge. Didn't do it with the bottom ones for whatever reason, perhaps because that raggedy edge is implied in the way that it's torn. But I think with this one, I would like a nice stencilish pattern. And I don't want to use anything that is similar to this or this one or anything else. But I am going to use one that I do like, again, which is a variation of Shaddock. So rather than the curved lines, I'm going to use the very straight lines and drawing triangles, a triangle shape from the bottom of the last line that way, and fill in with parallel lines. I could fill in the last little bit with a hint of black, but I'll see how I go. I think I will, because it just adds that extra bit of weight and definition to the pattern. So that's the last line. So I need to make a triangle. You can't do it that way, so it's got to go that way. It's a zigzag. And I prefer to draw the zigzag one triangle at a time. Otherwise, I can get terribly confused as I fill the pattern in. And it's also nice to see it growing. And I'm not making it regular. Maybe this piece of paper had pattern on in different sizes or not. Or perhaps it's stretched as we tore it. Who knows? Perhaps it's not paper, perhaps it's some other thing. But either way, I'm doing it because I like it. And ultimately, that's all that really matters. And sometimes the last little bit where you add black won't be a triangular shape, and that's fine too. It's all down to the wobbly lineness. I don't even know if that's the right description. Wobbly lineness. It's okay, it works. Hopefully you'll understand. The irregularity of the line, and that's fine. Just work with it and don't stress. Really nice just how that extra bit of black in the smallest area of the triangle, the point of it, just adds something to this. And triangles are getting small again now as the paper gets smaller. And I'm just going to fill that last bit in all with black. And it needs a bit there just to tidy it up. So those are those two sections. And again, I'm just going to go along here with, again, an erratic line, so it'll look like the paper's been torn. And while I'm at it, I may just as well do this one. And that delineates the space I want to work in rather nicely. So the patterns aren't touching. There is something about patterns not touching when I draw like this, because I like to see them separate. I don't like them butting up directly against each other. That's just my sense of aesthetics for this. So I now want patterns here and here that will be different in density. I mean, this one's really a lot denser than that one, I suppose, but we can alter that. We've got shading to do and other things. And in here, I think what I'm going to do, I'm just going to turn it on its side. I will zoom back in so you can see my pen as I throw the lid somewhere. Let me get that before it disappears into oblivion. There, here. Because what I want to do is to make squarish shapes, but they're not really square. They're just going to be random widths and slanting at different angles and degrees, and however you feel you want to make them. It's not about perfection here. It's about let's let's just break this space up and then see what we're going to do next. And sometimes that things like this work out really nicely. In fact, they usually do. My worry is that this might become the star of the show instead of the flower, but I think I've got a plan for that. Well, I have a plan. It's forming in my head as I do this. So I know what I'm likely to do to help to lift this, and that's going to be to use some colour. So I may not do anything with the other side of the seed pod thing here. A little while. Just leave it as it is until I've worked out what I'd like to do, because I don't want to take away from this particularly. And then I've got this last section here to take care of, and don't want to add anything much there. I'll come back to that because there's no desperate rush for me to do anything with it. And part of me thinks it'd be quite nice to add some lines here. So perhaps we've got one fine line, and I can break them up at random. And this line is slightly thicker than the first one because I'm using the O3 pen instead of an O2. And I will break it up at random. And then I'll take a finer pen again and just And like that. And then the thicker pen, just for where I can get that line in. Oh, that's looking the same thickness, isn't it? It'd be nice perhaps if I dug out an a 0.505 pen, because that would have had a much finer line. Different line widths can make a fair amount of difference as well. And perhaps I'll go back and just thicken up some of these thicker lines, or the thicker lines, so that we have, so I really do enhance that variation in them. Looks a bit like tree rings, doesn't it? So we've got some of those going on here. We haven't, but that's quite nice. And I think while I'm at this, this is quite light, a lot lighter than this, but I quite like as it is, as being quite open. I don't think I want to do anything inside, but what I am going to do is I've got my pencil here, and I'm just adding some graphite underneath, or where the left-hand pieces of paper will overlap this open pattern. And again here, because this one now has become the one that's directly underneath. And I do want to get a fair amount of graphite there. I've got a tortillon here, and I'm just going to gently rub this in, encourage it into the paper fibres so it's less likely to smudge later on. I've become more comfortable with this, especially if I've got a coloured background. I'm not a fan of graphite. I did help out with a book project over the last few weeks. I'm not going to say any more because I don't know how well known the project is, but I was one of a number of people invited to do some Zentangle tiles for the book, and they had to be in black and white and graphite shading, which isn't my favourite way at all. But I did it, and apparently it looked fine. To me, it always looks a bit grubby and dirty, but when it's on colour, I can cope with it better. But hey ho, the needs of the books were greater than my needs, so that's fine. So when the books when I find out what the book's advertised or whether I can say any more, I will. But it's quite a surprise to be asked, to be honest. I'm really surprised because I enjoy some of the Zentangle challenges from 7F5R. I've done those in the past. I haven't done um, fairly recently because of either commitments for books that I was contracted to do for a publishing company, or because I've just not had the energy to do anything much. It takes most of my energy to try to live life, in a way. My executive functioning has been compromised. The number of spoons of energy I've had a day has been very small. Still not great, but perhaps I'm learning how to manage my time. So that actually works quite nicely. I'm trying to think, do I want to? And I think the answer is yes, we will. Some shading around here. Part of me's thinking it's a shame I didn't keep this as a long, thin paper, because it would be really quite nice to have plenty, another one of these next door. So you'd have plenty for notes or for letter writing. Let me just move that up so you can see. I'm probably zoomed in too much now. Oh no. But to have a piece of paper that big, and then this would make a nice edge to it and nice for notes or memos or whatever. I have my moments like that where I think, oh, that'd be good. And then I wish I'd done that. And then I forget about it again. But let's have a look. Let's just zoom in. So this is beginning to look not too shabby. Right, health-wise, I seem to be doing better. I days are not good for me. I don't go out if I can help it. I have to stay in where it's cool and shady. My skin burns very easily, and as I said, I medication I'm on makes me feel hot all the time and uncomfortable, and the asthma I have and diabetes means that I have to be careful about keeping my body temperature just so I don't, have any kind of catastrophic effect. But I don't know whether it's more sunshine or whether the it was post-viral syndrome after I had COVID back in October. I mean, I'm not back to my full 100%, but I seem to be doing better. It's menopause doesn't help either because I have HRT, which is great. It's helped greatly, but it doesn't help with the overheating and the constant feeling of heat. Um, Cold nights I very much look forward to because I sleep so much better in the cold and the cool. And that's where fan has been, thankfully wonderful. And yeah, I live in the UK. We are not geared up for extreme heat. 22 is very warm for us. We complain it's too hot. Well, some people do, a lot of people do. We're not used to it. Houses are built to keep us warm in the winter because we just have very cold winters. I remember them growing up. And now we have very hot summers and milder winters with occasional cold, really, really cold snap. So we don't have air conditioning. It's not a general thing in residential houses unless somebody's, well off or the house has been built with it in, a modern house. And it costs a lot to put it in just for a few days a year as well. And yes, I know air conditioning is for other things, but the cost of energy is ridiculous in the UK. So, people are careful. So it's and the weather in the UK is so changeable. We have such a variety of weathers, especially here in Wales, because we have a maritime rainforest climate, would you believe, over here. And we don't have tropical rainforests, but we do have temperate rainforests in various places that are kept very guarded because they're at risk. So it takes its toll on me. So if I get overwarm, I will just want to curl up and sleep. I become very sleepy. Um, and if I do too much, if I don't take care or notice of how many spoons I have in a day, then it can wreck me for a number of days afterwards until my spoons get recharged with energy as I rest and recuperate. I have been doing some things that are um, new for me. My Welsh class has stopped for the summer, but I will be starting back in the first weekish of September, second week of September, 2 mornings a week, and I'm so looking forward to that. It's fun. But I've also started taking or leading 2 meditation classes in the evenings on Monday and Thursday evenings. So Thursdays going forward are going to be a bit manic. I actually am quite tired the day after because they're quite sociable because there's lots of questions and discussion afterwards with people asking me things. But I really enjoy it. It's where I can use my teaching skills in a positive way because meditation's been so good for me over the years. Um, doesn't help me recover any quicker, but when I'm in a tiz, it can help me calm down and settle, and it helps me get sleep sometimes. Not always because it's a practice, but you know, so things are pottering along, as it were, and going fine, really. What I want, that's what I want. So it's just working out everything. I'm due a checkup with the HRT soon, and I had tests for autoimmune disease, for problems with my reproductive system, all clear. So that's a good thing, but it's disappointing because, it's sort of like, well, it has to be. It's got to, if you became ill when you had COVID, therefore it must be, but there are no tests for long COVID. And you're thinking, great, and there's no support groups anymore. And it's still around there. And somebody I know has been struggling since COVID for years. real years. It really knocked them for six. Anywho, so what I've got here, I've actually got three curated sets of pencils from Castle Arts. I've got Kandinsky, Monet, and Urban. And although some of the pencils cross over, I don't mind because they're my favourite ones. But it's quite nice to have a curated set because I discovered that when you have, I don't know, 120 or more pencils to choose from, it can be a right pain in the posterior to try and find what you like. Kandinsky is one of my favourite artists. I love Monet's choice of colours, and I do like the more urban and geological kinds of colours as well. So they suit me, all right? And as they're curated, even better. So I'm going to look in here and see what colours I might like to use. They don't have many browns and things, but I may not go for browns. I may just go for colours that will just go with this, just to add some colour. And I think I might like to use, I don't want peach. I've got burnt ochre, which is a kind of deeper orange. There's a yellow ochre, which looks like a brown, but it really is it's sort of like it is a dull yellow. A marigold, which is kind of an orangey yellow. They'll work nicely. And then for the leaves, I think I might like, I think that will be, I've got cadmium green, which is sort of like greyish green colour. But I don't think I'm going to use another colour because I've only got little spaces for the leaves and stems and so on. These at the top I can use the oranges for, and I'll just pop those to one side, the rest of them. And what I have here, which you might be able to see, is something called zest. It's a blending solution. It's actually made from orange peel, orange oil, and it's used with a paper tortillon or blending stump, or even a paintbrush or a little sponge or something, or a Q-tip if you prefer, just to um, moisten it and use it then as a, where's that gone? I am looking for my, I should have somewhere here because I was using it yesterday. Where's it gone? I don't know. I've got it somewhere safe, obviously. It might be just, sorry about the noises. No, it's not over there. It'll be all right because I'll just clean this off. It shouldn't cause a problem. And all you do is you take your blending stump, push it into the sponge, which has got some of the solution. I always close it up because it is quite strong smelling. And then I don't know if you can see how the autofocus. No, let me just move in. You might be able to see this is slightly darker in colour than this. That's because it's picked some of the colour, some of the blending solution out. It does need retouching quite often, but it works really nicely. So here I'm just going to add some of the darker orange to the sides that will be in shadow, to the bottom of this, and just a little bit around that side. Same on the other, just around that side and perhaps a little bit there. I'll come back to the other bits. I have got the burnt ochre, which will come next. Come on. And I'm just going to add some around. And then where I want the highlight, I'll want the burnt ochre, the marigold. The one thing I don't like about Castle Arts pencils, I mean, they work fine, is the colour at the end here often bears no relationship to the colour there. And that I find very frustrating and annoying at times because I just want to be able to look at something and go, right, that one will do. Whereas here you've got to memorize which is which with the different colours. So I've got those there. And I'm going to turn this over, get out the way. And you can see that this is what I was using yesterday on a different piece of work. And I'll just clean that off because I don't have any clean ones here. And I can't see where on earth I've put my sandpaper. Can't even see an emery board here. But that's more or less clean. It's clean enough for me. I'm just going to moisten it again with some of the zest, put the lid back on. And then I'm just going to Gently rub this. Now it does look darker. It does look like I haven't cleaned all of that colour off, but it's okay. It is what it is. It'll help this just to stand out a little bit more from the background. It'll add some life here. Now you could do this in any which way you prefer. And I'm just going to go back and I'm going to add some more of this orange in. Yeah, even though this is damp with zest, that's nice because it means that colour will dissolve from the pencil and you have a bit more there, and it's also easier to move around, surprisingly. And it is dissolve, because that's essentially what you're doing. You're dissolving the wax or the oil out of the pencil and just leaving behind the pure pigment. So those some of that pigment does get picked up, but you can see just that little bit of difference that's made. And it looks very mucky on the screen. I don't know why, but let me have a look. Brightness, I haven't got anything for saturation. Try turning the brightness down a bit. That helps a little, but it's given a nice contrast there. I wish I had a different. I'm going to put the dark orange on this side. On the bottom here, I'm going to put plenty on, and on the top because I want distinct areas of colour. I'm going to use that there. And then I think I could have done with adding more colour. I always forget how much pencil I can, use, but it's not a problem because you can go back and add more. Always you can go back and add more, which is exactly what I'm going to do. Just to add to that lovely rich colour that's there. I'm just going to bring some of it down into those areas as well. Just like so. And it's quite dark orange at the top, but I'm fine with that. Here I'm going to add some dark orange to the left of these and these two. I'm going to add some deep orange at the bottom of these as the shadow. I'll come back to everything else in a moment. Here I'm just going to blend this out. Just that little bit. Sorry, I keep disappearing off camera. I get so engrossed in what I'm doing, I forget to check where the camera view is. Just going to blend this as well. Just to add the darkness that's there. Just that little bit out. Like so. And then I'm going to use this cadmium green in this section because I want something that's a bit different to the orange. I want it to stand out as being different. And yes, I'm going to use the same tortillon. If anything, by using the colours together, you sort of like they seem to fit together better. So that looks quite nice. And I do think I'd like to have some green on the tips here. Put some of that yellow ochre at the bottom. The nice thing as well about blending solution is that coloured pencils, when put over black lines, can make the black lines look less intense, less dark. But when you use blending solution, because you're taking away the wax or the oil that makes them that way, you get a very clear, it doesn't affect the colour. Obviously, it's wet at the moment, but as it dries, the colour will show up better and better. These colours also, with the blending solution, do not affect the alcohol, the distress ink background, not at all. Okay, for my stem, I am going to use cadmium green. And with the leaves, I'm just going to cadmium green right at the base and use what's on the blending stump, the sort paper tortillon, just to spread it out and make it paler towards the edges. So darkest towards the stem. This time of year, August time, it's always that time of year when my thoughts go towards autumn, I think, because we are getting, harvests of different produce constantly now, Spring veggies have gone, we're now into summer and the start of autumn veggies and fruits, which is lovely. And I do love seed pods and seeds as much as I do flowers and so on. And there's something so wonderful about their shapes. They're almost architectural, some of them. And I can't help but want to draw them. All year round will do me. There's only lots of vibe all year, whereas flowers need to be grown in other parts of the world. But there's just something fascinating about them. So just this simple amount of colour just helps to bring these to life. And the blending solution means that if you're like me, and I absolutely hate colouring with colouring pencils and getting a smooth gradation of colour, it helps you to blend different colours one into another, helps you to smooth the colouring out, a bit like Tortillon does with graphite, you know? They work. It works. It's all good. And the last thing are these little seeds inside, and I am going to make them a little bit greeny, just a bit of green, because we want them to not be the same as the background colour. We want them to stand up, or stand out rather. They're not going to stand up. They haven't got any legs. Stand up, stand out from that. I also think I could do with perhaps just a bit of green on the sides of these as well, just to blend with that orange. Talking about blending colours, because it will just help to tie everything together. The other thing I do want to do is I do want to add some shading underneath here, which I will do with the green, oh, not the green, the orange, like so. And that, we've got some here that don't have any green on them particularly, but I think that'll be okay. And that's that for the coloured pencils. What remains is to add some shadow, a drop shadow around this to lift it up off the background. So I'm using left and bottom, everything here, because I want it to appear that we've got light coming from this direction and that everything to the left and bottom is going to be in shadow. So that's easy here. And yeah, I'm going to put the shadow over the leaves because the stem I want to appear to be above them. Just need to, oh, wrong one. No, that was the right one, I think. Doesn't matter. And then for the leaves, it's going to be underneath, bearing in mind where they overlap as well, and spaces where we need to be mindful of them. And it'll all be fine. Well, again, we don't want to spread this out too far, but we need to spread it out far enough that it looks like we've got something floating. It's the only way I can describe it. Of course, if you decide to draw with me and draw this yourself, you can do as you fancy. I'm just saying this is how I do it. I'm using the royal we, which is a bit cheeky, isn't it? Do I? Cheeky indeed. Do I? Do. Okay, so I've got my paper tortillon getting ready just to Start to add that shadow. The left, which is where I want the most shadow to be really, and I am going to go all the way down my stem here and just pull this shadow out, because that'll take care of some of the shading around the leaves. And already you might be able to see how that is just pulling things out. I haven't got my autofocus on, have I? Mhm, mhm, mhm. There we go, it's that one. So there we go, and we can just go under the leaves and in the sections where there would be shadow from them. Secret with this is not to rub too hard, just gentle, and then you can pull this out as you need to. And I'm just going to add just a hint of a shadow on the right hand side, but only using what is on my paper tortillon. About how the leaves would overlap. Make sure there's shadow there. Not that it would be very noticeable, but it's surprising how a little something something can make a big difference. And under there, we'll need some shading as well. I think, I think it's actually worked out quite nicely. Let's have a look. What do you think? Hello, Daisy Tales. I'm live, yes. Hello, Georgetta. Sorry, I haven't been focusing on the chat, but yes, I'm here. I'm deciding now whether I've done with this because I feel that if I was to put a lot of stuff this side, I could end up um, with too much going on. I quite like this edge, although part of me wishes perhaps I should have put it here where I had a bit more space to play with. But I just think that it just kind of works as it is. And I'd say this could be a nice place to add a quote or to write a note on. It would look quite nice, even cut down with just that there, which is also possible to do. Shall I do that? Why not? Let's do that because I can. Oh, wrong cutter. Don't like that one. Like this one. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to use this to think about how much space I want. And as you can see, I think I want to leave about a centimetre or so. There would be nice. A little bit more actually, so that I have a little bit more to draw the border in. And front not. That little piece of paper is going to get used. Am I going to use it now? Ooh, shall we see? Let me just put that back away. And I'm just going to take my pencil here, just draw in a border that size. And I'll get my O3 pen. And I'm just going to draw in my lumpy bumpy irregular lines round the outside of this. Oh, my cutter didn't cut very well. I've got some raggedy edges. Time for a new blade, I suspect. Or it may just be this kind of paper I've got here. I'll give you measurements of it in a moment. So I'll get the cutter out so you know how big it is now. It started off as 5.5 by 4 inches, which I'm not sure what that is in centimeters, but it was a measurement I could make the most of really without silly eighths of inches or whatever, from the Nina cardstock I was using. So we've got that there. And what I think I may do, do I want, would I want this? I think I will. some shading at the top here and the right, and the top inside and the right inside. So it looks like it's better. Yeah, this will work nicely, I think. 'Cause this will give us a feeling that we've got a frame set on top of it. So it's not a lot of extra work. So I will measure this in a moment so you know how big it is. I'm just teasing this out just that little bit more, just so we've got a really good shadow, one that fades nicely as well, with soft lines, because I prefer the softer lines rather than harsher lines. That's just my preference. So now we've got that looking like we've got a box around it. And of course, the other way, this way is also a good way. And I am not going to worry one little bit here if I go over the lines because this edge is already shadow on it. This one though, I only want the shadow on the outside. And then it will look, hopefully, don't be afraid to turn your paper as you work. Ever means that you're comfortable or you can see what you're doing. It's fine. It's something I always do, even if I'm using watercolors to do things, I turn my paper around. I don't know how people can keep it all in one place. It doesn't make sense to me. But that's just how I work. Doesn't mean they're wrong. It just means I work that way. So it may make things more difficult for me. Yeah, so we've got this. That would make a nice bookmark. This, I have no idea, but let's measure them. And naturally, I don't have a ruler in both centimeters and inches, but I have my cutting board, which measures in inches and centimeters. So, oops, I don't want to cut a wire, thank you. So in length it is 5.5 inches, which is 14 centimeters, give or take. In width, it's, oh gosh, just over 2.5 inches or 7 centimeters. And this one is the same length, so it was 14 centimeters, 5.5 inches. But in terms of width, it's about 3 centimeters, which is about 1.25 inches. So we've got 2.75 inches wide. There we are. So I think 2.75 plus 1.25 makes 4 inches, which is what that would have been. But that makes a much nicer composition. And I really have enjoyed doing this with you. And I think it looks really quite nice. What do you think? You know? Oh, hello, Gail. It's lovely to see you and Daisy Tales. Hello. How lovely to see you all. I think I said hello to Daisy Tales, but I've been focusing on this. Lovely to see you too. I've been going for an hour and a quarter, so I won't be here for much longer because I need to shower before I go and take a kind of meditation on Zoom this evening. It's really, I haven't taken many meditation classes now for a long time, but I think as I'm getting better, there's more, weller, having more energy, there's more little opportunities seem to be coming my way for things. My biggest problem is saying no if it's too much, but I know how to do that. And so I have a new diary delivered not long ago, so I can sort of plan out what my day is as to what I have to do and, you know, making sure that I block days out to recover from things that I know will drain me. And it can be simple things, it can be enjoyable things. It could be going for a walk on my own and I come home exhausted, not from the walk, but from being out in the world with all the noises and the awareness, and I don't know, the anxiety that I have. Okay, I would like to show you, I'm sure you would love to see, some of the artwork I've been doing. This this is my an Ohuhu mixed media book, and it is 10 by 7.6 inches by, can I move out? No, that goes in. That's as far out as it'll go. But what I can do is move my camera up so we can see the whole of it. How about that? It's up again. Go on, Angela. We can do this. There we go. It's a bit better. And it is mixed media paper. It's got a fine texture to it. It's sort of like almost soft. It's not like velvet soft, but it's got that softness to it, which I quite like. And it does actually stand up well to watercolor. It stands up. It's great for using alcohol markers on colored pencils because, as you'll see, and it's quite white, um, which is a bit different to the. If I hold, oh, Bonina's very white as well. So colors show their true color. This I did, I'm not sure when, it was quite a while back, and it took me days, little at a time. I mean, I don't mean days of time, but days with little bits of a time when I could, to draw it and then to add the colour. It is both alcohol markers with coloured pencils over the top, white gel pens. Just an angular abstract, just using two basic sets of colours to keep the colour simple. And as I look at it now, I think, gosh, did I really do the answer is yes, I did. And I really do quite like it. And the colours are darker than I would have wanted them because with alcohol markers, that's how it can be. You know, sometimes you've got none of these in between colours that are not too dark and not too light. And it's the same no matter what set you buy. And some of the lighter ones are so in your face fluorescent that I really don't want to use them. But they work nicely. This one think I used alcohol markers, but I started adding colours with, I think I was using the Zig clean colour brush pens in the vintage set or the additional set that has more muted colours in it. And then where you can see up here, I've started adding pencil shading. And oh, thank you, Gail. And I haven't finished it, but I am kind of still working on it, you know? And I look at this and I think, this is really cute. This is another expression of me. Because there are many ways, it's not just one style or one style we have to stick to. This is another one. Again, it's alcohol markers and coloured pencils. This one is more or less finished, I think. I just need to sign it. I've got to check that I've done everything I needed to do, and with graphite, the shading. I think some of these sections need some details in because they're very empty looking and weird looking up here, but I'll work. I think that's why I left it, was to come back and think about what to do with them. And this happens sometimes. This one, I've done nothing more than draw it out and almost fearful of adding colour in case I mess it up because this I really like. I really do. I really like this design. And I don't know what to do with it or how to approach it at this moment. But there is no rush. It can stay in here quite safely. Then these roses of a kind. And yet I got so far over my page that I decided I liked what they were there. So down here, I've done a strip of kind of, if you like, it's a collage of little patterns, just dividing the strip up into uneven sections, some squarish, others not, some with wobbly lines and so on, and filling them in with patterns inspired by Rebecca Blair. And I think that kind of works, which is kind of like this. Yeah, you know, it's one of the things that I do like to do. That'll be stuck in my sketchbook now. These I tried on a small style. I'm sort of like horizontal or squarish, and I'm not so keen on them. And I'm not so sure about all of this on the side. But unless you do things you don't know, um, this is something I used to do a long, long time ago, and I don't know how or why that just popped back um, into my mind or whatever. But obviously, it was something that I needed to draw. These were fun. Watercolor sections. I decided to have square, and then here were the colours I used with sort of blending. So I actually used three colours. So I had this brownish colour, which I've got here, and a bluish colour there, and this one, and here's got all three of them in it. But shells of all kinds, with shadows underneath, which I did with coloured pencils, but not this one yet. But you can see diva dunks in there. It's one of my favourite things to do. These have got different kinds of patterns in and so on, like little mussels, and bigger mussels here, which I haven't added any patterns to yet. I haven't decided whether I want to or not. And no sort of like inner shading yet to any of them. They need it, but it's there. It was something I wanted to do and try, learning about colour and watercolours still. This one was a great deal of fun to do. This dress ink background, just in browns with some, I think this was broken china stenciling in, just as I've done on these, sort of, different stencil, different size, but it just fades into the background and adds colour. But this, I did add colour in, I've used coloured pencils on this and graphite pencils to help to bring layers out. And I love the way the background peeks through. Oh, these are gold dots. I like bits of gold, as you know. And it just adds something to it. It is all just, it's basically monochrome, but it works. And that's where I think if I use too many colours, that's where I get lost in things and things end up not looking right to me. This is simple. It's just two colours, oranges and orangey yellows, and then green. One set of colours, the other colours. And the background was set. It's sort of like a yellowy, greeny colour, I suppose, a yellowy colour, which fits in, which is why I chose the colours I did, in yellowy green. And it works because it's simple. Whereas when I go over the top with colours, this one I've started again, another distressing background. Started adding coloured pencils, but I had a bad few weeks and left it to one side. But it's something I can go back to if I wish. I like this one as well. I like it started up here and it started off very dense with ink, and then just things just changed. It just opened up. Lots of ammonites. I love ammonites, spiral shells and things, and different kinds of them. I've approached putting them together. Good way. These were interesting and fun to do. They've developed in a completely different way to the normal spiral, but so much to do and so much opportunity for adding patterns on. Use that blending solution, you'll find it's easier to draw on the top of it than it would be if you just use straight coloured pencils. The blending solution takes a lot of the wax away, so the inks will dry. This one is a completed drawing, but unknown what colours to use, what to do again. A distress inked background, and here you can see I've got like a shell pan or a fan pan behind, just very light. It's just there for interest, not to detract from this, but it gives a kind of um, feeling to it, an emotion to it, or a suggestion of how you should feel when you look at it. And I've got a weird bird face there, and eyes again. Eyes, why the eyes? Here's another one of these weird ones where I've got that panel on the side. I'm not sure I like this panel, but it doesn't matter because it's still trying it. These don't seem right. They seem to be bending backwards and away. But I did this back in June, so not long ago. I've forgotten I did it. And there's this one which is yet to be finished. And there's no rush. I may never finish it. Sometimes these are enough to do. Sometimes they'd make really good colouring pages. This one, I stopped. I love the design, but then the colours, not so sure. I'm sure it would be fine in the end, but I do love the combination of this lovely pinky purple with that beautiful crimson or cerise-ish colour, that pinky red, and with these lovely dull green leaves, but it needs some more work. This one I did while I was sat in a Costa coffee shop over here waiting for a friend. So I was enjoying my drink and just waiting, and it was lovely. So, and this one, it's just I started drawing one day and never went back to it. But there's a weird creature in here that seems to have a kind of tail and a beak, but it feels like it lives in the sea rather than flies in the air. I haven't finished it, forgotten all about it actually. This one, this one started with a watercolor background. Just watercolors, just put in and let them mix and flow as they will on damp paper and moving the paper around. And then I went in with a black pens. I think I used PN pens, and O5 pens, perhaps most it's the finest stuff. It was either O2, O1, or 005, and just started filling in patterns and shapes, things. And it's abstract, but people see different things in it as people will. But I enjoyed doing that, and I started adding extra color with colored pencils to this one as well. The center bit is mostly done. This needs to have some added to it. And I feel this will need one, this kind of border around it. These just need shading really, just to push them backwards. And I don't know, but I like it. Just odd. This one, just black, white, and a reddish brown. Because good. I haven't added any shading. I don't know what I'm going to do with it, if I'm going to add colour or shading or anything else. It's just there. Did that not long. I did that earlier this month. Can't remember. Then I've got a couple more here, which are this one. I actually drew it that way up. The people who've seen it said it should be this way up, or that way up, or that way up. It's whichever way you would. Again, this was watercolor backgrounds with the black lines put on, and then I added color with. I used more watercolor, and did I use? I think I did use some of the Zig clean color brush pens with the vintagey set to add colour, and then coloured pencils to really bring it out with some white marker pens and gel pens. These Zig, the white Zig, or the Posca pen. But I added colour on the top of them just to tie them in, just to give something. And I'd like to have them more subtle than they are. But some people have seen this partly done where it was quite muted and soft, the colours, and now it's very vibrant, and they're very divided on which one they prefer, I do have to say. This one I'm still working on. Don't know which way up it is or anything else. Again, watercolor background, lines just drawn on. This is the way I see it, almost like cracked pavements or rock and things there. There's almost like seed pods growing and something else growing out there, and things. Don't just is pure abstract, just let my pen flow where it needed to flow. And I like the colours. I like the combination of the more rusty, weathery colours with the oranges and the browns and these blues here with the softer colour background, the browny yellows and so on. But we'll see what happens there, because I will get to it. There's nothing is left undone. And then I've got two pieces of paper with watercolor backgrounds ready to be drawn on. So when I sit down to do these, I'll do a number of them in one go. So I've got some stacked up and ready to go, just like I've done with all of these, which are I made these just before I decided to do a video. Distress inks and some stencils. So there's sort of like blue here with some green and some greens and blues. Blues looks a bit purpley, but it isn't. It is a blue. And this is Ancient Mariner. It's like some bluey green and yellowy green and some which just look almost like ripples. Soft muted purple, not lovely yellowy green. I just think of lavender, but it's not meant to be, but it makes me think that way. It makes me feel cool and calm looking at that. This is that purpley pink. It's seedless. It's not seedless preserves. It's yeah, it is seedless preserves. This is wild honey, so it's a orangey yellow on the top. Yet they really work nicely together in some way. And coral, and this is rusty hinge in the back, sort of like a lovely orangey brown. my favourite of the brands. And this one I should have used Rusty Hinge, but I used Vintage Photo. But nevertheless, it's in the background. That's where it's meant to be. So I've got plenty of bits and bobs to use. Even this bit can be made use of because I can see this being turned into like a little sampler of patterns or little things stuck on, to create a little tab. Again, it would make a cute little bookmark if that's your thing. So this is me, what I've been doing, what my health situation is. I am feeling tired now after this. It's been an hour and a half, but I've enjoyed doing it. And oh, I can see there's some more. I'm glad you like what you've seen. I'm glad you've enjoyed. Let me get my mouse working again. It's a Bluetooth mouse and it's gone to sleep. And that you've enjoyed seeing what I've done. I'm glad that to see everybody, and it's lovely to have the welcome back. So I appreciate that so much. And I look forward to seeing you again sometime soon. I don't know when, but I'll try and be a bit more organised and announce when I'm going to go live. But sometimes it will be impromptu when I realise I've got enough energy now, but I might not have in a couple of hours' time. So I'll punch it while everything is um, going fine and well. So I'm going to wish you the very best for the rest of your day and for the days ahead until we meet again. I know that I need to update my blog and to do a bit more posting on social media and things like that. But it's little at a time now. Today there won't be any more. I will be um, gasted, not flabbergasted, gasted by my flabber. Um, Not that. I will need some quiet time to let my brain recharge. So once again, thank you. I wish you all the best. And I look forward to seeing you all again. And I'll do my best to catch up with comments and so on whenever I can. So bye for now. Hwyl fawr. Hwyl.